In diplomacy, there's an old saying. The art lies not in choosing sides, but in choosing the right moment to reveal which side you were always on. Now, this couldn't have been more true in India's recent stance on Brics currency proposal. On paper, India remains a part of the Brics bloc, but its rejection of a common Brics currency sent a very clear message, one that left many wondering. Has India quietly chosen the West? The question is not far-fetched, and to understand the answer, we need to step back. Brics, a group of economies like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has long positioned itself as a counterbalance to the Western power structures. Together, this group commands 35% of global GDP and represents 45% of humanity and handles nearly a quarter of global trade. In 2022, when Western sanctions isolated Russia after its war with Ukraine, Brics nations began rallying harder behind a shared currency to guard against future financial warfare. The pitch was very, very clear. Reduce dependency on the US dollar, insulate against Western financial weapons, and boost intra-Brics trade. In early 2024, momentum picked up further. When finance ministers and central bank heads met in Sao Paulo, Russia pushed the proposal even further. The Russian media even showcased President Vladimir Putin holding up a mock Brics bill nicknamed the Unit, reportedly backed 40% by gold and 60% by a basket of member currencies. Russia had a motive. With Western sanctions choking its economy, the Brics currency offered Moscow an escape hatch. China too saw the proposal as a way to expand the yuan's global clout, replacing dollar's dominance with yuan influence. But then, that's where came the Indian wall.
Confused for someone else here, because we have never actively targeted the dollar. That's not part of either our economic policy or our political or our strategic policy. Some others may have. What I will tell you is a natural concern we have.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar stated it very, very plainly. India has never been for de-dollarization. In one clean sentence, India distanced itself from the most ambitious Brics idea yet. The message was subtle, but it was unmistakable. India isn't willing to compromise its economic interests to serve the political agendas of developed nations. And this is where it gets more interesting. While the Brics nations were flirting with financial rebellion, Washington was quietly tightening its embrace of New Delhi. Donald Trump announced a renewed trade push, a roadmap for a $500 billion US-India bilateral trade deal by 2030. It wasn't just a number, it was a signal, be with us, and we will make it worth your while. For a country like India, heavily dependent on Western capital, exports, and market access, that wasn't an offer to ignore. The US investments in India's tech sector are massive. Indian IT firms employ thousands in America. Any move seen as a threat to the dollar system could invite devastating retaliatory tariffs, and Trump made that very, very real.
Brics was put there for a bad purpose, and most of those people they don't even want to talk about it now. They're afraid to talk about it because I told them if they want to play games with the dollar, then they're going to be hit with a 100% tariff the day they mention that they want to do it. And they will come back and say, we beg you not to do this. Brics is dead since I mentioned that. Brics died the minute I mentioned that.
For India, the trade surplus with the US has crossed $41 billion in recent years. This wasn't a theoretical risk, it was a trigger for economic disaster. But that decision came with a cost. Russia, which was once India's most trusted defense partner, was now openly promoting a new financial order, one that India had just snubbed. Moscow saw Brics not just as a trade bloc, but a tool for geopolitical independence. And India's refusal to go along with the currency idea may have signaled to the Kremlin that New Delhi was no longer on the same page as Moscow. So, did India really abandon Russia? Well, not exactly, but it did choose to prioritize its own economic future with the US over symbolic solidarity with the Moscow. Because at the heart of this dilemma was something deeper, a choice between two different visions of the future. Even if the common currency offered low transaction costs for intra-Brics trade, the risks of alienating Western partners, especially the US, far outweighed the benefits. India did not just reject a currency, it rejected entanglement. Because the truth is, the US dollar isn't just dominant because of power politics. It's built on trust, deep capital markets, and global financial plumbing that no BRICS unit can replicate anytime soon. In the end, India didn't betray Russia. It just made a cold, clear choice. Growth over grievance, autonomy over ideology, and strategy over sentiment. And sometimes in diplomacy, as they say, that's the only real currency that matters.